Hello and welcome class to my oral presentation. I'm Asia Nilly and welcome to week 1 of psychology seminar. Please guys, I'm tired. I've been at work so I have my handy dandy iPad that I have just jotted down all of my thoughts, and I try to simplify them so that I'm not rambling on here for like 10 minutes. So let's just jump right into it. So the study I chose was Are You a Natural by Thomas Buchard and David Lycan. And he covers the idea that your genetic makeup or your environment and choices have heavy influence over your personal qualities, or something we all know as nature versus nurture. This study highlights how environmental factors influence two people who share the same exact genetic makeup. Who could think of a more perfect way to test nature versus nurture? The study investigates the similarities between twins raised separately and twins raised together to determine the influence of genetics and environment on various human characteristics. The twins underwent extensive testing, which took about 50 hours, including personality tests, aptitude inventories, intelligence tests, interviews, which I'm sure included thousands of questions. And yeah, that sounds like a lot. So kudos to them for helping us with this. The results indicated that twins raised separately showed remarkable similarities, suggesting strong genetic influence despite them being raised separately. That is a very, very big finding. Are you nature versus nurture here? It's definitely nature. Additionally, the study found little difference between MZ8, which are twins raised separately, and MZT, which are twins raised together, implying that environment had little impact on their characteristics. The researchers concluded that genetic factors account for most of the variations in human traits. I thought the study was a perfect way to be able to tell if it's truly nature or nurture, because scientists will be able to clearly see the impact of genetics and able to differentiate the similarities based on genetics or environment. But in every study, there are pros and cons. While there only are a few cons, I could surely think of one. One con would be the small sample size due to the likeliness of twins being separated at birth. I know in the textbook it said that, that was pretty common back then, but as we progress, I find that that's not so common. Another con would be the assumption of different environments, because just because they were raised on different ends of the earth, what if they had the same exact upbringing, the same exact, cultural factor, the same exact friend prototypes, and etc. Like the same exact likes, hobbies. Like, I think it's just an assumption that they were raised differently. And then, yeah, that's just another con. This study could be valuable to me or anybody else in the class. If you're anything like me, you're always curious about why you have certain traits or behaviors, and this study highlights how much of who we are might be influenced by genetics. It could give you a new perspective on your own nature versus nurture. This study also could persuade you to make better decisions for yourself. Knowing more about the roles of genetics and environment can help you make a more informed decision about your life. You might focus on nurturing your strengths or working on areas where you want to grow, and understanding that both your genes and your environment does play a part. So what I mean by this is, picture that you or me come from a lineage of people who are successful academically, produce nothing but doctors, educators, and things of that sort. I might want to hone into my academic success versus honing on to, my sports. Like, what if I'm just not sports savvy? What if that doesn't run in my family? What if academics is what runs strong in my family? I feel like knowing if it's nature versus nurture would help you make decisions towards academic success in this scenario. study could be used to identify psychological disorders earlier and be able to take preventative measures with precaution. In understanding that a large amount of traits can be inherited, this will help therapists and doctors tailor treatments to individual patients. For example, if a person has a family history of depression, knowing that genetics play a significant role can prompt earlier screening and preventative measures. In other cases, if a child shows early signs of a learning disability that has a strong genetic component, educators can implement targeted interventions to support their learning needs. Modern research in epigenetics shows that while our genes provide a blueprint, environmental factors can change how these genes are expressed. This adds another layer to nature versus nurture, so we'll never truly be done, guys. Highlighting that it's not just about genes or environment alone, but it's about how those two things interact. The twin study did lay that groundwork, but modernly we're still building on that. And my source is, I'm going to open the link because, you know, baddies always cite their source. National Library of Medicine. And that is it. That is the end of my oral presentation. See you guys in the next one.